Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, hello.
Hello, Jyotsna. Do I
Yeah,
have a video or not?
yes, we are just trying. Even I don't have the video. We are just trying. Just wait for a few seconds.
Sure.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, try your video now.
No, I don't have access.
Okay.
Yeah, now I have.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, can you see me now?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. Am I the only one who is such?
No,
So we're
you.
finding so much difficulty with this, or the others are all tech geniuses and I'm the dinosaur in the room?
No, right now everyone is there. I think you are able to see everyone else.
Yes.
Yes, now I can.
Okay. Professor Wali, he's not visible yet. Professor Wali?
Professor Wali is also there. He has joined.
He's there, but video is not on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting the video on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the video isn't working. So let me just try again.
Please try video settings.
Is it okay? Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
thanks. So I see somebody upside down. Oh, Smriti looks upside down.
No.
Now we are
Yeah,
able to see us straight.
Yeah, I think it appears to me at least. I know.
Okay,
My
she's
specs
fine
are
now.
all right.
She's fine now.
Yes.
Yeah, now it's okay. Now it's at 90 degrees. Now everybody is. Yeah, I can see everyone out here.
Okay.
Jyotsna, Nandkishore, PVM Rao, Yashish. Yeah, all of them are there. Sure.
So should we start?
I think we can. I think are we all? Well, Yashish
Yeah,
just
Smriti,
we are all.
now you're at 90 degrees for me.
Oh, we can see him straight.
Smriti.
No.
Smriti.
We are talking about
Smriti.
Smriti.
I'm okay now?
No.
No, you're 90
No, not
degrees
yet.
now.
Okay.
To me, again, well, upside down totally.
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
Fine. Yeah, it's fine now. So
I'm
let's
still
start.
90 degrees or I'm
No, you're okay. For me,
horizontal
you're
now?
okay.
You're fine.
For me, you're okay.
It's okay now.
Okay, I think for a short while I was a spider woman.
Yeah.
With me, you're still upside down.
No, it's okay. Maybe.
Anyway, it's okay. Let's start. No problem. Let's start.
Which is fine.
I
for
think there's a
everyone
time
else.
lag, that's why it will change.
Okay. So let's start. I welcome you all for this startup session. I would introduce you for a few minutes and then Professor Wali would take over as moderator. Let me introduce you each. Welcome you, Dr. Wali. He is MD FITT, which is Foundation for Innovation and Technology Transfer, and IIT Delhi. He has been there from 2006 onwards.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And he has earlier worked with IPCL. So welcome you for this session.
Thank you. Thank you, Jyotsna. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Next is Mr. Yashish Daya, who is co-founder and CEO of PolicyBazaar.com. He has been earlier MD of Ebo.com and CEO of First Europa. I welcome you here for this session. I'm sure we are going to hear lots of things about startups from you. Welcome. I welcome Professor P.V.M. Rao, who is Mehra Chair Professor of Mechanical Engineering and Design and Head of Department of Design, IIT Delhi. He has been co-founder of Assistive Technology also. So he also has lots of experience and can share with us about startups. Next is Mr. Nandu Doraiswamy Nandakishore. He is Professor of Practice and Marketing in ISB, and he's expert in marketing and strategy. He's rather called the guru of marketing and strategy. And also he has been mentor of many startups. So welcome here, Mr. Nandakishore. Next is Ms. Smriti Chaudhary. She is CEO and co-founder of Money Order and Senderment. So welcome, Smriti. And I hope everyone is going to share lots about the startups and how they're coping up in this new normal. Now I invite Dr. Wali to continue as a moderator of this session. Over to you, Dr. Wali.
Oh, thank you, Jyotsnaji. Thanks a lot. Indeed, a privilege for me to be moderating a session which actually includes both academic as also the business leaders. Indeed, I feel privileged. And sometimes I feel small because they are the people who actually I admire a lot. Nonetheless, I think I have a job to do. I'll just take it as a job, small job to do. It's difficult to who to call first, but I think in no particular order. So whosoever comes on the screen first, and at least I see Professor P.V.M. Rao, Nandu, Smriti, yourself, and I don't see. Yeah, Jashish is also there, but of course my screen includes only few of them. But nonetheless, let me start with Professor P.V.M. Rao, my dear colleague. See, Professor Rao, if I have to, Jyotsnaji, go a little beyond your description of him, he's not just an accomplished academic, but actually he's actually at IIT Delhi, sort of a fulcrum, a one-stop shop. No matter who it is, whether it's an academic or a student or an outside entity which has to discuss about what IIT Delhi is doing with regard to innovation programs or even the entrepreneurship, how students are to be enthused in that sphere. I think he's the person, the first port of call for anybody in the institute. In fact, it has a bird's eye view of virtually every kind of program that is happening at IIT Delhi, whether they are sponsored by external agencies or also whether they are internal programs of the institute. So I think he is the one who can actually initiate the discussion and maybe let us know how or where and how he does envision IIT Delhi to be, let's say, a startup hub of global standards. I mean, we anyway are known to produce a lot of unicorn founders, but I think let's put the whole thing into perspective from an academic standpoint, where IIT Delhi is going to go ahead in let's say in the next 5 odd years to be called as a truly global startup hub or a startup hotspot when it comes to campuses. So, Professor Rao.
Okay. Thanks for that very generous introduction, and thanks for this opportunity. So I don't have to reiterate to this crowd about the achievement and success of our IIT alumni, particularly in the startup world. And by any metric, IIT Delhi seems to be leading in the country and to some extent globally when it comes to startup and entrepreneurship. But all this, if you remember, happened when there was no formal training on campus in innovation, entrepreneurship, or venture creation. But I would still give a credit to IIT Delhi for all the success which we had in the past, because the ecosystem which we have in terms of hostel life, collaborative and peer-to-peer learning, co-curricular and extracurricular activities which used to happen on campus, climate of networking and competing with each other. I think all these have contributed enormously to wherever we are, particularly in terms of success of alumni. And IIT also teaches like looking at problems as an opportunities and skills of problem solving, which have all helped for many people in their journey as an entrepreneur. But now the situation is very different. because this is the best time for students, because there are a large number of co-curricular, even curricular activities to train students in terms of entrepreneurship, particularly in terms of entrepreneurial mindset. And all this happened about 6 to 7 years back when we had a new curricula. We tried to bring a lot of new activities as a part of curricula to promote knowledge application, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And so if you look at from the student's perspective, so student now has courses and they can get seed funds if they want to get started with any knowledge application or even startup. There are pre-incubation fellowships. There are semester breaks for startups. There are deferred placements. And to add it to that, we also have a strong administrative support to manage IP or technology incubation, technology transfer, and technology licensing. So what we are seeing is that these initiatives are already yielding their results. And we have seen the glimpse of these initiatives during this pandemic, when a lot of students actually came up with their existing startups or even the new ventures to look at the problems which are being facing the society and to address them through their own skills, etc. So, so apart from the institute priority, what we two more things which are actually pushing entrepreneurship in a big way is one is that we have large number of role models who are young, and also the large number of government schemes which are also trying to now promote the entrepreneurship. So together we have a very vibrant system. And one of the good things which you also see is that IIT Delhi always acted like a big brother to other institutions in Delhi, and particularly for many other institutes in the country. And we are seeing a lot of students and young, particularly graduates, emulating IIT Delhi model and doing that. Just to share, in 2020, I think country has added another dozen unicorns. And if you look at some of the founders of these unicorns, they're not necessarily all of them are from IIT Delhi. We have founders who are from Delhi College of Engineering, Netaji Subhash Institute of Technology, Sri Ram College of Commerce, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So in a way, IIT Delhi is also kind of a
Professor Rao, we lost you.
When was that?
That was just about 20 seconds.
Okay. So what I was actually, is it okay now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So what I was actually telling is that IIT Delhi is like a big role model for many institutes. I was telling that the unicorns are now coming up from even Delhi College of Engineering, the founders who are alumni of Delhi College of Engineering, Netaji Subhash Institute of Technology, Sri Ram College of Commerce, etc., who are emulating IIT Delhi model. But just to take one more minute, now whatever journey has been very encouraging, but I think it's a time when we take this whole journey to a completely a next level. What we actually see is that still there is a big gap between the potential which we have and presently what is happening. So I just wanted to give a couple of points what could be done as we go ahead. First thing is Institute has a pretty clear vision now in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship. The Vision 2030 has one of the verticals which basically looks at startups and entrepreneurship, this thing. So Institute is very clear about its priorities. What we want is that slowly this kind of trickles down to the rest of the institutes, particularly in terms of department centers and schools, are still thinking largely in terms of teaching and research. Somewhere entrepreneurship is still not in their minds. And I think that is the next thing which we would like to do, that every department center and school also thinks in this third vertical, which we call as innovation and entrepreneurship. And also we need to strengthen the training and mentoring programs in entrepreneurship. We are actually sitting on a big gold mine which we call as the IIT Delhi alumni, who can bring a lot of intellectual resources to take it to the next level. And I think we still are not leveraging that. That is a second major challenge. And third is many of our successes, if you see in the past, have come more in terms of digital technologies. And I think we still don't have a big successes in deep tech startups. That should be our priority. And if you actually look at IIT Delhi, PG students now outnumber the UG, but still a lot of these entrepreneurial activities happening from UG, somewhere we need to rope in PG students to do that. Fourth challenge is how do we convert our research output, which is now happening in a big way in terms of products and solutions for the society. That means translational research. And lastly, I think we have still not leveraged, particularly being in the city, capital city, and the Delhi has much more to offer, and we still have to leverage to go in a big way. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Professor Rao. In fact, you actually give a very comprehensive picture. And I think this is where I think I should get in Yashish, because he's indeed one of the brightest outcomes of this system, an alum in his own right, and a distinguished one at that. So, Yashish, how much do you let's say concur with what Professor Rao said, particularly in times of creating an ecosystem wherein it boils down to the unit level when it comes to the entrepreneurship, or at least sensitization towards entrepreneurship at IIT Delhi? And then you certainly having about your journey from 2008 as India's largest insurance aggregator. So that is one. Second thing, I also would want to ask you to maybe very briefly tell us at what stage of your entrepreneurial journey were you now confident, now it's going to be a stable journey from there on? What was that inflection point, if I may ask you so?
Sure, sir. Sir, I've always, valued and revered both the quality of students and the quality of teaching at not just IIT Delhi, but all the IITs. But, historically, I've looked and I have found, at least in India, students from IIT Bombay and IIT Delhi tend to, do quite well in entrepreneurship. And one of the reasons I have sort of historically put behind and thought about is because they are living in metros. I know that's strange, but because those metros give them a lot of exposure of the world outside as well. In IIT Kharagpur, it's very difficult to get exposure to the world outside. Nothing against IIT Kharagpur. I think the students are just as bright, the education is just as bright, everything is just as good. So I think, what does that tell us? I think that tells us that the rigor of our training, the rigor of our education is very critical, because that helps us have rigorous thinking all the time. But the real entrepreneurial zeal comes from connectivity to the real world, in terms of where are things happening. That can happen anywhere. I'm not saying that can't happen in Kharagpur, but the economic opportunity in a place like Kharagpur is perhaps a little less than the economic opportunity in Bombay or Delhi.
True.
And that is perhaps what allows people to see what's happening in real life. We were very lucky to be from that batch of 1994 to 1996, just before the first .com boom, and I think a lot of us got early exposure on the internet technologies, so that is an advantage. I also feel it is an ecosystem at the end of it. We all, work off each other's energies. And I totally agree with Professor Rao's view that getting more and more alumni engagement would really help, because they will bring more of the real world experiences into place. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurship, at least in India, a lot of what I have seen, entrepreneurship is all about the willingness not to give up. first of all, having a dream, having a vision to do something which is meaningful, which makes an impact. But after that, it comes down to not giving up. It's really not about, it's a lot about human instinct. It's about who you have in your team, who you don't have in your team. Exactly as you mentioned, having the hostel experiences, having the classroom experiences, having the academic rigor, having the competitive intensity, all those things play a big role. Somewhere, one of the things that we need, I'm sure it's already there, but one of the things we can do as an institute is build the what you call the backbone of I don't know what word to use, and I think ethics is too harsh a word, but I would say the backbone of
Values.
of values. Exactly. I think if we worked more on that, there's never enough. I think that would really help, because today I don't think we need just entrepreneurship. We need value-based entrepreneurship. We need people who want to make a difference in the world, do it for the right reasons, etc. I think there is no dearth of both academic rigor and experiences variety to deliver. But I think alumni engagement would help, and value-based, the exact word which was given, values, would really help. I think talking about specific journeys, I think since 2008, I have tried to build Policy Bazaar. It's my first business. I started quite late, relatively, in the sense, I graduated from IIT in 1994. And then I started my first venture about 14 years later with the experience. But all I would say is I don't think it's like it's smooth sailing even now. I think smooth sailing starts to happen maybe once you have a couple of businesses, or maybe once you're, I don't know when smooth sailing happens actually. I hope smooth sailing happens at some point. But but the other thing is, do entrepreneurs, sir, really want smooth sailing? Because somewhere at some level they thrive. Like, let me put it another way. There is a general management part of Policy Bazaar, because today it's a medium-sized organization, 10,000 employees. So I can't call it absolutely a startup. Those employees every month are quite sure they're getting their salaries at least for the next few years. There's a lot of bank balance. There's a lot of customers. There's revenue streams. There's all those things, right? So to some extent, it becomes a general managerial role. And there are parts of the organization that stay innovative, where we're trying to do new things, right? And I think both have their space. And I'm sure there are some very good managers who can manage both, but most of us are good at one or the other. And I particularly am always more excited about what will make us relevant 3 years from now, 5 years from now, than what we will do today. But thankfully in our organization, and I think that's also entrepreneurship, right? We have people who are far more focused on today, and they make sure the company continues to run today. And I think that having that balance, being able to work with a multitude of people, not having the choice of the people that you work with all the time, I think is important. Because as I look at even my own direct reports, and I look at the 5-6 of them, maybe 1 or 2 are very similar to me, but at least 2-3 of them are almost polar opposites of me. And I have to find it within me to be able to work with them. If I'm not able to work with them, how will I build a diverse organization? So I think, sir, all in all, lots of experiences, lots of learnings. We got a lot of support from Like for example, my own venture, if Hitesh Oberoi hadn't been there, it would have never happened because he was our first investor. He's also from IIT Delhi. So I think, yeah. So I think, but as I look back, why did Hitesh and my friendship ever develop? I'm just giving you a very, very small example because eventually it's based on friendships. It's not just based on the idea you had.
Oh,
I remember very well once we had gone to see a movie, and I remember this recently. And Hitesh's scooter had a puncture. And we had a test or something in 2 days. And so, or whatever, right? Everybody was busy. So everybody left. No, sorry, it didn't have a puncture. It was some parking or something. It was taken somewhere. I don't remember the entire incident, but I remember I spent 2-3 hours with him trying to get that solved, right? And I think from there, our friendship maybe developed. I don't know what was the genesis of the friendship, but that is how friendships develop, right? Do you go that extra mile for your friends? And that 20 years later or whatever, 14 years later led to a $5 million check for nothing on a, basically he could have just said, this doesn't matter at all. Or he could have invested that money. So I think those are also important. It's not ourselves. It is our entire group, our entire, how we are seen by people. That is also important. But that's it, sir. That's what I would say.
great. That's very, very interesting, Yashish. Nandu, I think that actually is some masala for you to actually figure out how would we normalize such an experience. I mean, actually, at least I did not hear of this. I mean, somebody shelling out a check just on the verge of friendship developing. I mean, vis-a-vis an idea that might have been there with both of them. And what also he said, does an entrepreneur really need a smooth journey for him to be always on a roller coaster ride? So I found it very, very interesting. And how would you actually rationalize this?
Thank you, Professor Wali. And thank you all for inviting me, a very distinguished panel, one that makes me feel in some way intimidated to be in the presence of such powerhouses here. Allow me, I promised Jyotsna I would take just a minute to quickly introduce myself.
Sure, please.
So I graduated from IIT Delhi with a BTech degree in 1980. So that was 40 years ago. And having graduated, for the next 35 years, I was working in industry. So I was Darth Vader, the evil global capitalist. Yeah, that's me. I worked all over the world, in the Far East, in Europe, in the US. And I retired at the age of 56. I was the first Asian ever to be on the executive board of Nestle worldwide, based in Switzerland. When I retired, I had been successively a global CEO of Nestle Nutrition. That was a $10 billion business. And then the CEO for Asia, Middle East, Africa, and Oceania for Nestle, all businesses. That was a $20 billion business. Having retired, then I started teaching at the London Business School and at the Indian School of Business. So from Darth Vader, I'm now trying to reinvent myself to become a Jedi Knight, from the dark side and coming to the what side is it? The opposite of dark side, the bright side, or the good side. And I'm also a small venture capitalist. So I'll talk to you from these two perspectives. I'll give you a few of my learnings that I have picked up along the way. And the audience I will address is people from IIT and alumni who I presume will be interested in jumping in and starting a venture of their own. So that's the perspective I'm going to go. And I'm going to cover some of the points that Yashish talked about. And, I've made a note of the excellent points that Professor Rao also raised, and that may come up at some point. So first, I'm invested. By the way, I also have, for those viewers, I also have a YouTube channel. It's called Insights with Nandu. It's free to view. There are several short videos there on business, on leadership, on startups, on marketing, etc., which you might find interesting to view and to share. So that's free. It's out there. So I'm also a small venture capitalist. I'm invested in about 25 startups all over the world, in the UK, in Switzerland, in Africa, in India, Singapore, and so on. About 20% of those startups have gone bust on me. In the remaining 80%, some of them are already unicorns, and some of them show promise of getting to be there. So maybe I'm doing something right over there. The first learning I'd like you to share with you is I've come across startups that really, as you know, 90+% of startups fail within the first 2 years of starting up. So the first learning is this, that any startup which starts with a really cool technology and says, look, I have some really cool tech, what can I do with it? Chances are they'll fail. If they get a lot of funding, they may last more than 2 years, but chances are they'll fail. A successful startup starts with identifying a genuine problem. It may be a societal problem, a consumer problem, a business problem, doesn't matter what it is. And then says, how can I apply tech to solve that problem in a manner that is a 10x improvement on the legacy solution of the problem? And if you approach it in that way, and particularly, and Peter Thiel, the venture capitalist, talks about this very eloquently. I can recommend his book, From Zero to One, to anyone who's interested. Start with a niche and really build an MVP into that niche that is a dominant customer satisfier, and then expand out of that niche. That's the first learning. Start with a genuine problem. Second learning I have is, there's different kinds of startups. There are startups more and more in India, you see, which are focused on consumer goods or business solutions, or basically products that you and I consume. We're taking products and applying technology and e-commerce to occupy niches and build beautiful propositions. Mamaearth is a great example, which has been invested in by a good friend of mine, Fireside Ventures, V.S. Sitaram, or the Mom's Cove, which is one of mine in that space. So there's the consumer goods side, and then there's the digital services side, stuff like what Yashish is doing, which is fabulous and mind-blowing, and it's kept in creating completely new marketplaces. So one is the old. So for the old marketplaces, in some way, if you can get the right kind of expertise behind you, and you are focusing on existing problems with some better solutions applying tech, you can minimize the risk of failure. So the risk actually becomes much lower. It's not 90%. But on the flip side, the returns are also lower. So I have not heard of such legacy business focused startups, getting valuation multiples of more than 5x of 6 or 6x of revenue. That's the kind of range in which they are. Whereas on the digital services, creating entirely new properties, new marketplaces, e-commerce, Policybazaar, etc., the risk is higher, but the rewards are also disproportionately higher because the penetration and the expansion and into audience, whether in India or overseas, is also much higher. So that's a second very interesting. And I'm invested in both, and I find a very interesting difference in these two. Third learning, the founding team matters a lot. To Yashish's point, with his Hitesh Oberoi, the founding team matters a lot, and there's a tension I'm looking for in the founding team. I'm looking for a founding team who are so bloody-minded and determined. They know what they're going to do. They're going to go and do it. At the same time, I want them to be able to listen. Because if the guys don't listen, then I don't invest in them. I want the founding team to have the ability to listen, to digest, and then to come back and say, yeah, you know what, that fits my vision. I'm doing it. This is why I'm doing it. Or that doesn't fit, and this is why I'm not doing it. Then that is a kind of a relationship which, this is a tension that has to be managed. The fourth insight I have is in looking at founding teams, there are founding teams who tend to focus on fundraise and cash runway, how much runway, and they're perpetually in selling the business and earning, getting more funding. And there are founders who are focused on operations. Again, both of these approaches fail. The successful approaches are the ones who are able to balance both and keep the tension between the fundraise and extending your runway at the same time that you focus on customer delight as a key metric. And within the fundraise itself, the sooner you can pivot away from VC money to actually taking money from customers, because customers will keep you honest and they'll focus on customer delight, the better you are. Fifth learning, there is again an inherent tension between the startup phase and the scale-up phase. And Yashish is very much in the scale-up phase with 10,000 employees. The two are very distinct cultures. Yeah, and they are distinct cultures, and you have people who prefer to do one and people who prefer to do the other. As startups enter the scale-up phase, I find a lot of founders unwilling to let go, because in the startup phase, they had their hands in every pie, they were making all the decisions. Just being able to let go and delegate and empower people is an important skill. And Yashish seems to have got it right. So he's delegated some of those routine operation tasks. So he's focused on building the next big thing, thinking 5 years out. And so that's a very key tension point to manage. Finally, my sixth point today for youngsters. And this is about, the new reality. First, a big picture, and then the short-term COVID-19. On the big picture, this is an exciting time to be young and to be an IIT graduate. I am 62 years old, so I'm too old and I don't have the energy to jump in and do this kind of startup. So I'm more in the back, helping others be successful startup founders. It's an exciting time. When I graduated in 1980, there was no VC funding. There was no entrepreneurship culture, the one that Professor Rao referred to. It's a fabulous time. But remember, once you get started on this journey, it calls for a lot of hard work. It calls for perseverance, and you've got to be working 24/7. There are no weekends in this, okay? And you have to learn how to cope with failure and bounce back from failure, because for sure you'll fall down, not one time, but dozens of times. You'll need to center yourself on your values, as Yashish was saying earlier. Incidentally, Yashish, the reason I was so quick to talk about values, I actually teach courses at the Indian School of Business on ethics and responsible leadership. And I teach about this tension between values and value creation. It's a fabulous topic to explore and discuss. So hard work, perseverance, coping with failure, and most importantly, building a team of complementary skill sets. We all like to surround ourselves with people like us. If you surround yourself with people like you, you will fail. I guarantee it. You need to have there people who are not like you, who have complementary skill sets, and who can tell you that you are wrong, and you can listen to them. That's a very important skill set. Moving to the short term, which is COVID-19, which has undoubtedly been a stress point for all startups. Again, basically, whenever something new hits you, there's two kinds of responses you can go with. One, you can respond to that new disruption as a threat, or second, you can respond to it as an opportunity. Research shows that both these responses will fail if done in isolation. To be successful, you need to respond to the disruption as a threat and as an opportunity. And that ability to pivot and do both is very important for a startup. As a threat, you will cut costs. You might give up your office space. You might find a way to postpone short-term costs to long-term. Even remuneration can be converted to equity, stuff like that. The pivoting part says, okay, now shit happened. It's happened to everybody. What can I do to actually make this work for me? And I've been kind of lucky that because the 80% of my startups that have survived have in fact used this COVID-19 time to become even stronger than they were before they went in. So these are startups who are saying, thank God there was COVID, because we actually managed to do some fabulous work coming out of there. So I think I've taken enough of your time. 6 short learning shares. Professor Wali, back to you.
Thank you, Nandu. That was actually, let me call it a balanced scorecard kind of an approach. When it's
Hey, I'm a business school guy. What do you expect?
Absolutely, absolutely. So great. No, I actually liked it very much. Now, let me, I think before we actually run out of time, Smriti, I think you are an of all the things in fintech. Now, so aside of you giving, let's say, a heads up of what you are doing, at least with regard to your business, my specific question to you would be that do you foresee any specific challenges to your kind of business in terms of the digital disruptions that are happening all across? Let me turn around my laptop to see her properly.
No, it's fine.
See you upside down.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Wali. And that was a very hilarious thing, actually. But I thought that I'm already, grounded, but I believe I'm not grounded on all the screens.
Yeah. At least I can't see you straight, but anyway, it's okay. Others are
Okay.
seeing you perfectly. All right, perfect.
We are able to see her properly. No problem.
Everyone
Yeah,
else, I think, is
but
able.
anyway, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. A very quick intro I will give about myself. I'm Smriti Chaudhary, and I look at the business operations at Money Order, that is our fintech solution. Yes, I am from the fintech world, and now I was a serial entrepreneur. I started my own ventures from my college days, my studying days, and I successfully ran those and exited them. And now I finally have entered the world of digital business, fintech, and blockchain. So my co-founder at Money Order is Saurabh Raj. He is IIT Delhi 2004 alumnus, and he has worked in Schlumberger for a decade and a half, actually. So that's a very brief introduction about myself and the fintech solution that we are providing. Dr. Wali, you would ask me about the vision that I would actually have at Money Order. Well, to quickly sum it, I would say at Money Order, our vision is fueled by a fundamental belief that access to technology and business processes always creates opportunity. So we are committed to empowering people and businesses, delivering financial solutions at human scale. We do this with technology, innovation, and partnerships, which is the key in fintech space. Now, Money Order started primarily with customer needs. If you see the developments in the Indian fintech space, you will realize that banking for people has changed. Small and medium businesses, they continue to face challenges with payment collections, fund transfers, and reconciliations, which involve a mix of UPI, bank accounts, and wallets. Now, if you ask me why Money Order, why did we really come up with this fintech solution? Well, India is home to 63 million MSMEs, and poor cash flow is the top reason why most of the small businesses fail. And we built Money Order, which is an open banking solution for businesses to help them collect payments across hundreds of invoices, send reminders, pay the employees' salaries, bonuses, and expenses, as well as the suppliers, and do the account reconciliation all from a single window. Dr. Wali, you did ask me about the customer challenges. Well, I would say timely payments and collections is one of the biggest challenges that is faced by the small business community. At Money Order, we are trying to actually handle the payment sector of these small business communities primarily. Now, if you consider the situation of over 60,000 cases of delayed payments, which is worth 17,000 crore rupees, this actually 17,000 crore rupees have been has been filed on the MSME Samadhan portal. And while trying to solve these particular problems for the customers, we realized very early on that our success would actually depend on our integration with the ecosystem. So Money Order is a great step to support the small and medium businesses by helping them get paid faster. And regarding the COVID, yes, COVID also impacted us. On the negative side, the financial sector, became like an untouchable zone. When cash flow and payments started drying up, it was difficult to find customers for a fintech solution. And on the positive side, we got this extra time to reevaluate, do frequent surveys, check customer requirements, and come up with a very improved solution with Money Order. So this is my take, actually. And I'm very, very privileged, actually, to be listening to all of you. All of you are powerhouses of knowledge. And glad you're all sharing your experiences. And I hope to connect with all of you after the webinar, offline basis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Smriti. Thanks a lot. Jyotsna ji, do we have some time or we have to conclude? Please guide us on that.
We have to conclude. We have crossed our time limit already. The new session would be starting in another 5 minutes or so. So we have to conclude.
Yeah, if we can give a minute to each of the panelists again to talk about anything they would want, particularly how they are coping with, obviously, COVID. And that could be one general take from all of us.
Okay.
So let me start with Smriti. She has already spoken about how.
Already spoken, yeah.
Okay. Nandu?
Very little to add. Thanks, Professor Wali. For me, it's been a fabulous journey engaging with my startups and helping them navigate this COVID-19 crisis to be even stronger. And I'd love to be in touch with any of you. So follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on email, or follow my YouTube channel. Just search for Insights with Nandu.
Perfect. And we'll bring you to IIT Delhi anyway. FITT will bring you because I didn't get a chance to talk about my venture out here. But nonetheless, Professor Rao?
Yeah, I think
yeah.
So one of the things is that the COVID was actually brought many interesting things. One is that there were problems, but there were also a lot of opportunities, particularly
Absolutely.
what we've seen from students and faculty side, gearing up for looking at some of these problems, how to convert them into opportunities. And we have seen some successes too. Only thing I had to do is to arrange passes for these 50 people from the
and you arrange one for me also.
Yeah, and that one. And good thing is that DCP South also happens to be an IIT Delhi alumni. It was a very smooth. so the connect comes not only here, but I think it comes everywhere. But I think going ahead, I think that what we probably need very strongly is a mentor-mentee connect, some kind of where we have huge potential to bring alumni in various ways to connect with what is going on, and particularly the people who are young entrepreneurs who graduated in last couple of years are also looking for this kind of mentorship. And I think probably we are in the process of designing one such program. We'll come back to you.
Okay.
Good. Yashish, was this COVID just a short-term disruption, or do you see actually what many people talk about the new norms emerging?
So COVID, see, initially it was well managed. I think the people working from home, etc., worked quite well for the first few months. As time has progressed, I think it's starting to have mental exhaustion on people, which essentially implies, see, it's very difficult. There are very few people who can, I make a calendar every week and I know what I'm going to do on, some days, but very few people actually do that and can maintain that discipline. So over time, productivity, etc., starts getting harmed. So just to put in perspective, I know it's very wrong on many dimensions, but on 4th of Jan, we are actually starting working back from office because, I'm seeing steep declines in people's engagement. So I'll give you an example. Some people in our marketing team had started a side business 3-4 months ago. I am not sure how rampant that could be, right? Because and I know that would have never happened if we were in office, because the eye contact is essential at the end of it. 8-9 months of lack of eye contact, as they say, even relationships don't last from a distance sometimes. So I think it is starting to be tough, and I think now we need to get a grip on it.
Okay. Indeed, I would entirely agree with you. See, we are at the end of the day social animals, not digital animals.
True.
So I'm just waiting that we all start shaking hands, hugging, because I think we just are waiting for this rogue virus to go away. how we get
Sir, my father just sent me a message today. My father, who's 84, just sent me a message today, and I was very surprised by it. He said, "Look, once this thing is over, I want to do a world tour."
Okay.
And he's never had that desire. He's a very, but I think that's starting to happen in a lot of people. People just want to
Absolutely.
get out.
At least I can admit that I'm suffering from digital fatigue now. I think I just don't like these webinars no more. In fact, 90% of the invitations that come my way, I said, no, Baba, I'm not for it. I just want to speak to, no matter how big the crowd is, 1,000 people, 100 people, 50 people, I want to speak them in person. That's the best way to do it. But nonetheless, so I did not get a chance to speak about FITT, the IIT Delhi's Industrial Foundation, maybe some other time. But nonetheless, it was great talking to you all, great listening to you all.
Dr. Wali,
Dr. Wali,
I would like you to speak for 2 minutes at least about FITT. Many persons, many alumni, they don't know about it. So I would like you to share your ideas also about FITT.
Okay, just I'll take a minute or two. Well, this is a large animal called Foundation for Innovation and Technology Transfer. See, IIT Delhi was first among all the academic institutions in the country to have initiated at the goading of IIT Council way back in 1986. But then IIT Delhi, FITT got formed in 1992. In fact, it's a unique structure among all the IITs. So this is an industrial foundation, has an arm's length relationship with IIT Delhi. So if I have to put it into the vertical in terms of businesses, 3 of them. One is industry engagement. Second is end-to-end intellectual property management at IIT Delhi. And the third one is the innovation and the enterprise platform, which means the research parks, the incubators, and the startups. Now, we all know IIT Delhi has done, IIT Delhi alums have done brilliantly when it comes to startups. But as Professor Rao referred to early on, that the key challenge for us now is to have the unicorns among deep tech startups. So for that, we have initiated quite a few programs which can actually give a fillip to creation of startups of the kind of, let's say, Cisco, the Googles, the HPs of the world. I mean, we have had our own desi or local Walmarts, right, or Alibabas of the world with us. But now I think we need deep tech startups. So this is where we are actually currently focusing on. And with regard to what Ashish said about coming back to office, well, we will be working unstopped. Since May 25, we are physically open. And just to give you what he said is very important, the productivity. We have tried to ensure that despite the pandemic, our productivity remains at the same levels as the last year. So for example, in terms of numbers, while we filed about 152 patents last calendar year, 2019, till date or till yesterday or day before yesterday, we had 144. So I have promised to the director that we will try to match last year's figure this year. We just have 3-4 days more. We are pushing our attorneys that we want to reach that figure to actually tell the world that, well, despite the pandemic, we are working and would want to at least retain the levels of achievement that we had in the last year. We bank on the support of the corporates, of the alumni, and last but not the least, the academics at IIT Delhi to actually propel us forward. So with this, I think I'll stop it here. And over to you, Jyotsna.
Yeah, it was really interesting session for me. And it's going to be interesting for all the alumni also. I wish we had some more time, maybe some other panel discussion for startups, or we are going to have startup competition also soon. So maybe we can invite all of you again for different sessions where you can share more. And in FITT, I think many senior persons, they want to come and mentor. Even I would be ready to mentor. So we are just waiting for the opportunities. If you can start something more, we are ready here. There are many more.
We are very fast. In fact, let me not give names of some mega corporations of the world. So the typical question they ask us when it comes to responses, how fast can you be? I said, I'm as fast as you are. So let me give you a quick So update on that. No, it's actually one of the most aggressive and one of the largest FMCG companies in the world. So their CTO and maybe all top-notch people were with me. They asked me, okay, we are going to give you a paper and we want a response to it. And how sooner can you do it? I said, I'll be as fast as you are. Send me the paper, 9 months.
Okay.
So that speaks about the level of bureaucracy in some very large corporations. I say so because I also come from a large corporation. I was with IPCL, but my last stint was with the Reliance Industries Limited, the largest Indian corporate, by the way. So I have a sense of how corporates work. But then the point is, I'll be more than happy to engage with all of you. In fact, in my earlier days at FITT, I was the first one to reach out to the alumni, but I got a very limited response to that. But I think we need to work more together, because the kind of development works, the development projects that are happening at IIT Delhi would actually need a lot of handholding, a lot of advice, a lot of support from our alumni, the very rich alumni base that we have.
Okay. So because in IIT Delhi Alumni Association, I'm getting questions from many alumni. They want to help. They want to mentor. They're just looking for the platforms. So we can together maybe build another platform, or with the FITT, people are ready. And it was
so we, as you would know, we are creating not one, not two, but 3 research parks in our 3 campuses. So the one at Sonipat is already partially functional. The one at IIT Delhi campus, that is House Khas campus, should be up and running in another 3 or 4 months. And I think I'm more than happy to send an invite to all our alumni, the distinguished ones particularly, to actually help us and build an ecosystem about which we are talking about. Let it be a small, great Silicon Valley kind of ecosystem that we build at IIT Delhi with a lot of them in the deep tech startups.
Okay. So that's good to hear. I'm sure all the alumni listening to us, they would be happy to help you out and contribute towards it. So thank you all. It was really great session listening to Professor Rao, Nand Kishore, Smriti, Dr. Wali. Thank you all.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Ashish. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.